Yep. Okay, so we are going into the next video recording of why the Redskins are garbage. And, I'm just going to, whatever thought comes into my mind, and then discuss that for a few minutes. And we'll try to keep this particular video to about 10 minutes. I think that'll suffice it. I think I made the point in episode 1 of this series, Why the Redskins Are Garbage, that it's the same crap every year. And that no matter who the coach is, no matter who the general manager is, there was general manager, there's been a few of them in the tenure of Dan Snyder as the owner, coaches galore, players galore, and it always just seems to be the same lifeless, pathetic offense and this somewhat good defense that can't stop anybody when it matters. And so, if you change all those parts and it's the same result every year, every game, every week, week in, week out, and it never seems to get fixed. When Gibbs was the coach, whenever something was wrong the previous week, you could see that they fixed it the next week. It seems like the Redskins never fix anything. It always seems to be the same mess every week. You're talking about this Monday night game, which I hate to confess to admit it, but I actually watched the half hour of the first half, and I left because it was just junk. I mean, this team is pathetic. And it is not on Case Keenum. It is not on Case Keenum. I will tell you every one of these videos, and I'm going to harp on a couple of players per video that I think are absolute junk and I will get rid of them immediately. Because I think they're horrible football players. And every single player that I mention, you could go to the practice squad of another team and find a player on the practice squad of another team that can immediately come in and step in for this guy. And I would love to spend this video destroying Josh Norman because he is absolutely the worst player at cornerback in the NFL. He's not a character guy. He's not even a good football player. But I want to go into another guy before him. I want to go into the guy who I think whenever they have struggles on offense, this guy is 95% of the reason why they stink, why the pass protection isn't there, why the run blocking isn't there, and that is Morgan Moses. Morgan Moses is the most incompetent, worst, god-awful offensive tackle in the entire friggin' league. And he asks himself the question, why don't the Redskins, why doesn't the coaching staff, why doesn't the front office see how horrible this guy is and get rid of him? Why? Morgan Moses is terrible. Morgan Moses is god-awful. Do you know why the Bears had such a field day with Case Keenum last night? It wasn't Case Keenum. Aside for one play where the defender faked out Brandon Sheriff a little bit and was able to run right by him, every other quarterback pressure, every single mistake that Keenum was forced into making was caused because 52 was running right around Morgan Moses like he was not even there. And yet all you hear out of the Snyder-controlled CSN Washington, Hogs Haven, the radio station, what is it? I don't even know what is it, 106.7 The Fan, that Snyder owns and controls. Everybody talks about how great Morgan Moses is. Where? Where on God's green earth are you watching these games? In zero gravity? On the moon? Are you like missing first, second, and third down where you're not seeing how badly this guy is getting beaten on every single play? Morgan Moses is horrendous. Morgan Moses is god-awful terrible. The worst right tackle in the NFL. He gets beat, burnt, and sauteed on just about every single snap. But this is the Redskins front office we're talking about. And guess what the Redskins did 2 years ago? Guess what they did? Guess what the Redskins did 2 years ago? I was calling their front office, begging and pleading with them to sign anybody, to include my grandmother, to play right tackle for this football team. And they gave him a contract extension, making him at that point in time one of the highest paid right tackles in the NFL. That's right, Morgan Moses was one of the highest paid right tackles in the NFL. It was the off season before the past season. What would that be? The 2008, this is 2019 season, 2018 season. So in the off season of the 2018 season, they gave Morgan Moses this contract extension. And guess what he la-di-da-di did? Go to Pro Football Focus and Stats.com. Okay? Morgan Moses was not only the most penalized right tackle in the NFL at the end of last year, he was not only the most penalized right tackle in the NFL, he was not just the most penalized offensive player in the NFL, not just the most penalized defensive player in the NFL. Morgan Moses was the most penalized player in the entire league last year. That's what he did in his gratitude towards the big money contract he got from the Redskins. He turned out the most god-awful, terrible year of any player to have ever played the game. Why? I'll tell you why. We were watching the highlights of last night's game with the Redskins on that 4th and 1 where Case Keenum does the sneak and the ball gets slapped out of his hands. Who had the ball dead to rights? A great guy, a high character guy in Adrian Peterson. Look at the tape. He had the ball dead to rights. And all he had to do was what, Rich? What do you have to do, Rich?
Jump on it.
Jump on the freaking ball! All he had to do was land on it. But because this team has no discipline, because they have no common sense, it permeates to the whole team. Okay? So if he were playing for a team whose head wasn't up its behind, where the coaches discipline these players, he sits there and gets cute and tries to pick it up and do something with it. He fails to do so. He's even turning. His whole torso is turned upfield while the Bears defender jumps on it. And what does the Bears defender do, Rich? He's on all fours like Peterson should have been, right?
Yep.
He's on all fours like he should have been. He scoops up the ball and pulls it into his grasp while Peterson is what? Bent over towards the line of scrimmage without the football. Guess what I would have done on that play? I would have jumped on the friggin' football. Like anybody else would have done. You can feel free to comment, right? Why did he do that? Why did Brandon Sheriff, who was a very talented offensive guard, why when the defender juked him, did he fall for it? Because this team has no discipline. I'll tell you how you know this team has no discipline. I'll tell you how. And I will talk more about this in the next episode. Josh Norman. When I hear Josh Norman has been named a captain for this football team, what are you basing your captainships on? Josh Norman is a clown. He should go into the movies and play the Joker in the Batman series. I got no respect for Josh Norman. Josh Norman is a clown. He is so undisciplined in his play. He thinks he's this phenom. Josh Norman, if you're listening to this, you are a clown. You are a joker. I would not even have you as a backup corner on my team. But this team, the joke that it is, makes a clown like Josh Norman a captain. Okay? So why did Brandon Sheriff fall for that juke move where the defender just ran right around him like he wasn't even there? Because Brandon Sheriff played at Iowa, which is a very disciplined school. But then guess where he's played since then? He's been away from the University of Iowa long enough to lose his disciplined thinking. That's what everybody does when they come to the Redskins. They don't play disciplined football. As a result of it, Adrian Peterson decides to do something cute and make a play rather than just falling on the stupid football. Okay? Morgan Moses, getting back to my point, how many minutes has it been?
11.
Okay. One more minute, and I'm going to finish ripping into Morgan Moses. But you know what? It's not all Morgan Moses' fault. Why doesn't this football team get rid of him? Why don't they draft another offensive tackle to replace him? Why don't they put Brandon Sheriff, who played left tackle at Iowa, as the right tackle? Move Brandon Sheriff to the right tackle spot and move Morgan Moses in where he can handle it. I think Morgan Moses would be a good right guard. Why don't they switch the two of them out? Why? Because the Redskins are stupid garbage. That's all I have to say for this episode.